How to respect local cultures. Level C. 1. Advance. Respecting local cultures sounds simple until you actually travel, move abroad, or work with people from places very different from your own. Most of us grow up believing our normal is universal. We learn what is polite, what is rude, how close to stand, how loudly to speak, how to disagree, when to smile, when to stay silent. These rules sink deep into our bodies, so deep that they feel like common sense. But common sense is often just local sense. When you cross borders, the same action can mean something completely different. Culture is not only traditions, dances, or national food. Culture is a system of invisible agreements. It shapes time, space, language, hierarchy, humor, emotions, and even how people show respect. And because these agreements are invisible, it is easy to break them without noticing. Many cultural conflicts are not caused by bad intentions. They are caused by unconscious habits. A traveler can insult someone while trying to be friendly. A foreign worker can seem cold while trying to be professional. A tourist can look arrogant while thinking they are being open-minded. So the real question is not, how do I avoid mistakes? Because mistakes are guaranteed. The real question is, how do I behave in a way that shows good intent, humility, and willingness to learn? If people feel that, they usually forgive small mistakes. If they feel the opposite, pride, impatience, or entitlement, then even small mistakes become big. The first step to respecting local cultures is mental. Stop treating your own culture as the default setting of humanity. This is harder than it sounds. Even when we say we are open-minded, we often judge things quickly. We see a different habit and think, that's strange, or that's inefficient, or that's wrong. But different is not the same as wrong. Often, it is simply a different solution to the same human problem. For example, in some cultures, being direct is considered honest and respectful. In others, being direct is considered aggressive and childish. In some cultures, asking personal questions is a sign of warmth. In others, it is an invasion of privacy. In some places, arriving late is rude. In other places, arriving exactly on time can seem overly formal, even cold. These are not small details. They shape daily life, and they shape how people evaluate you. A useful mindset is to assume that every culture has reasons for its habits, even if you don't see them immediately. Those reasons may come from history, climate, religion, social structure, or economic reality. If you treat the habit as meaningful instead of stupid, you will ask better questions, and questions are a powerful form of respect. Respect starts before you arrive. Many people think cultural respect begins in the street, but it begins at home with preparation. You don't need to become an expert, but a small amount of research can prevent the worst mistakes. Learn basic greetings. Learn how people address each other. Learn what clothes are appropriate in religious places. Learn the local attitude toward tips, bargaining, photos, and public behavior. Preparation is not only about rules. It is about perspective. If you read a little about the country's history and current sensitivities, you become less likely to make careless jokes or comments. You begin to understand why some topics are painful. You also become more capable of seeing the place as a living society, not a tourist product. When you treat a country like a theme park, you naturally behave in ways that locals dislike. When you treat it like someone's home, you behave differently. One of the biggest areas where travelers show disrespect without noticing is photography. The modern world has trained us to record everything. We take pictures of food, streets, houses, strangers, rituals, and even moments of grief. But in many cultures, a camera is not neutral. It can feel like theft. It can feel like humiliation. It can feel like turning a person into an object for someone else's entertainment. A good rule is simple. If the subject is a person, ask first and accept no without drama. If you can't ask, don't shoot. And even if people say yes, be aware of power dynamics. Tourists often have money, status, and mobility. Locals may agree because they feel they must, not because they want to. Respect means noticing that possibility. Another sensitive area is religious and cultural spaces. Temples, mosques, churches, shrines, and sacred landscapes are not only beautiful architecture, they are places where people connect with what they consider holy. In such places, behavior matters more than your intention. Loud voices, inappropriate clothes, careless gestures, and casual selfies can feel deeply offensive. When you enter a sacred space, follow the local rhythm. Watch how people move. Notice where they remove shoes, where they stand, where they sit, when they speak. If you're unsure, ask quietly. And remember that in many cultures, sacred places are also community spaces. People come there not to be watched, but to pray, mourn, celebrate, and breathe. Respecting local culture also includes respecting local work. Tourists often bargain aggressively, trying to get the lowest price. In some places, bargaining is normal and even expected. But there is a difference between bargaining as a game and bargaining as a weapon. If you try to win by humiliating the seller, you may get a cheaper price, but you also show that you see local labor as cheap and meaningless. A helpful question is, what does this price mean to them? For a tourist, a few dollars may be nothing. For a local vendor, it may be the difference between a good day and a bad day. Respect does not mean overpaying blindly, but it means bargaining with dignity. If the price is too high, you can walk away politely. You can smile and say no. You don't need to treat the person like an enemy. Food culture is another place where respect becomes real. Many travelers treat local food as a challenge, as if the culture exists to entertain them. They record reaction videos, make faces, and joke loudly about what looks weird. This can be humiliating, especially if the food is connected to identity and tradition. If you don't like something, you can be honest without being rude. You can say, "It's new for me," or "I'm still getting used to it." You can try small amounts. You can show curiosity. The goal is not to pretend you love everything. The goal is to avoid performing disgust. Disgust is one of the fastest ways to insult a culture because it suggests the culture is dirty, backward, or inferior. Language is also a major part of respect, even when you don't speak it well. Many people are afraid to try because they don't want to sound stupid, but trying is often respected. A few phrases, hello, thank you, sorry, excuse me, can change the emotional tone of an interaction. When you try, you show effort. You show you don't expect the world to adapt to you. At the same time, be careful with humor. Jokes do not translate well. Sarcasm can be misunderstood. Irony can sound like insult. Even friendly teasing can feel aggressive in cultures where public harmony is valued. If you're in doubt, keep humor gentle and observational rather than personal. Now let's talk about something more complex: values. Travelers often meet local customs that conflict with their own beliefs. This is where respect becomes difficult, because respect does not necessarily mean agreement. If you see gender roles, political opinions, or social rules that you dislike, what do? Some people react with anger and moral superiority. They lecture locals as if they are children. Others do the opposite and say everything is equal, even when they see harm. Both reactions can be shallow. A more mature approach is to separate respect for people from endorsement of every practice. You can respect individuals and still hold your own values. You can remain polite while disagreeing internally. You can choose your battles. If you are a short-term visitor, it is rarely productive to argue loudly about deep cultural issues. It can even be dangerous. Respect often means listening first, asking questions, and understanding context before forming strong judgments. This does not mean you must stay silent about everything, but it means you should be aware of your position. Outsiders often see only the surface. Locals live inside the complexity. When you enter that complexity, you should enter as a learner, not as a judge. Another important part of cultural respect is understanding face. In many societies, protecting face dignity, social harmony, and reputation is extremely important. People avoid direct confrontation. They avoid saying no clearly. They may agree in the moment and then disappear later. To outsiders, this can feel dishonest. But inside that culture, it can be a way to avoid embarrassment and conflict. If you learn to read these signals, you become more respectful. You stop forcing direct answers when direct answers create discomfort. You stop demanding honesty in a style that looks like aggression to locals. You learn to hear maybe as no, or later as not likely, depending on context. This is cultural literacy, and cultural literacy is a form of respect. Finally, respect is also about how you represent a place after you leave. Many travelers return home and tell stories about crazy locals, weird customs, or poor neighborhoods. Sometimes they exaggerate for fun, sometimes they speak with pity, but these stories shape how others see the place. They can reproduce stereotypes. They can reduce a complex society to a simple joke. A respectful traveler tells more honest stories. They talk about people with dignity. They mention their own mistakes. They describe differences without turning them into comedy. They remember that they were guests. Respect becomes real in the moments when you don't know what to do. You arrive somewhere new, and suddenly your usual instincts stop working. You don't know how to greet people, how much eye contact is normal, how formal you should be, whether you should take off your shoes, whether you should tip, whether a smile is expected, or whether smiling looks stranna. These moments can be stressful, especially if you care about making a good impression. But they are also the moments where the best attitude is simple. Pause, observe, and let the local rhythm teach you. Observation is an underrated skill. Many travelers move too fast. They enter a shop and act immediately. They speak loudly. They touch objects. They start filming. But when you slow down, you learn quickly. Look at how people stand in line. Look at how they order food. Look at how they pay. Look at how they talk to older people. Look at the body language. Even small details can protect you from big mistakes. In many places, locals don't expect foreigners to know everything, but they do expect foreigners to notice the atmosphere. They expect you to behave like a guest, not like an owner. When you truly don't know, asking is often respectful if you ask in the right way. The tone matters. A good question is humble and specific. Excuse me, is it okay if I? Or, what is the polite way to? Shows that you care. If you ask with confidence, like you are testing them, it feels arrogant. If you ask with curiosity, it feels warm. Also, don't ask one person to represent the whole culture. Instead of, why do you people do this? Say, I noticed this here. What does it usually mean? That small change can make your question feel respectful instead of accusatory. Now let's talk about invitations and hospitality, because this is where many cultural misunderstandings happen. In some cultures, hospitality is a serious value. People may invite you to eat, to drink tea, to join a family event, or to enter their home. Sometimes they will offer something more than they can easily afford, because generosity brings honor. If you accept without thinking, you might accidentally take too much. If you refuse too quickly, you might insult them. So how do you handle it? First, understand that offers can be ritual. In some places, the host offers, the guest refuses politely, and the host insists. This is not manipulation. It is a dance that shows respect. If you accept immediately, you may look greedy. If you refuse strongly, you may look cold. The safe way is to refuse softly once, then accept if they insist again. But this depends on the culture, so the best approach is to watch what locals do with each other. If you travel with local friends, ask them quietly. Gifts are another complex area. In some places, bringing a small gift to someone's home is expected. In others, gifts can create discomfort or obligation. Even the type of gift matters. Alcohol can be inappropriate. Certain colors can have meanings. Certain objects can be connected to funerals or bad luck. Again, you don't need to know everything, but a quick check or a simple question can prevent an awkward moment. Clothing is one of the most visible forms of cultural respect. Many travelers think clothing rules are about control, but often they are about context. Some societies value modesty, others value formality. In some places, showing shoulders or knees is normal in a city, but not in a village. Some places are relaxed on beaches, but strict in temples. A common mistake is assuming that tourist areas represent the whole country. They don't. Tourist areas are often a bubble. If you leave that bubble, the same outfit can send a very different message. Respectful clothing does not mean you must erase your personality. It means you choose what is appropriate for the setting. If you're entering a sacred place, cover more than usual. If you're meeting older people, dress slightly more formal. If you want to wear something revealing, save it for places where locals do the same. This is not about shame. It's about not forcing your style onto a space that has its own rules. Communication is another area where visitors unintentionally break cultural norms. A major difference between cultures is how they handle disagreement. In some places, disagreement is direct and open. People debate, interrupt, challenge. It can feel energetic, not rude. In other places, disagreement is indirect. People avoid saying, "You're wrong." They use soft language. They hint. They remain polite on the surface, even when they feel strong emotions. If you bring a direct style into an indirect culture, you can look aggressive. If you bring an indirect style into a direct culture, you can look dishonest or weak. A respectful approach is to match the local style. If people speak softly and indirectly, do the same. Use phrases like, maybe, I'm not sure, from my side, I might be mistaken. If people are direct, don't be shocked. Don't take it personally. In many direct cultures, a strong debate is not conflict. It's a normal way to think together. Also pay attention to hierarchy. Some cultures are very egalitarian. People speak to their boss almost like a friend. Other cultures are hierarchical. Titles matter. Age matters. You may need to greet older people first. Avoid calling someone by first name too quickly. Or show formal respect to officials and teachers. Ignoring hierarchy can look disrespectful, even if you personally dislike hierarchy. Again, respect is not endorsement. It's understanding the local social grammar. Now, let's address a modern topic that creates a lot of confusion: cultural appropriation versus appreciation. Appreciation means you engage with another culture in a way that is informed, respectful, and supportive. Appropriation usually means you take something, especially something meaningful, sacred, or historically oppressed, and use it as a costume or an aesthetic without understanding or credit, sometimes even profiting from it, while the original community is marginalized. This is not always easy to judge, because cultures influence each other constantly. Exchange is normal. But a useful question is, who benefits and who is being reduced to a stereotype? If you buy a traditional craft directly from local artisans and learn its meaning, that tends to be appreciation. If you wear sacred symbols as a fashion joke, that tends to be appropriation. If you copy a style but mock the people who created it, that's clearly disrespect. The deeper principle is simple. Don't turn someone's identity into your decoration, especially when you don't carry the history behind it. Social media makes this harder. People want exotic content. They want dramatic photos and viral moments. That pressure can push travelers to behave badly, entering private spaces, filming people without permission, pretending poverty is a cute vibe, or staging disrespectful poses in sacred places. Sometimes people do it without thinking, because everyone else is doing it. But local people notice. They may not confront you, but they remember, and you become another story about careless tourists. If you want to share content respectfully, focus on consent and context. Ask before filming people. Avoid humiliating angles. Avoid poverty tourism content where you treat hardship like entertainment. If you share religious places, keep your behavior calm. If you share local traditions, describe them with respect, not jokes. And if you make a mistake, don't defend it aggressively. Apologize, correct it, and move on. Another practical way to respect local cultures is to support the local economy in a thoughtful way. Many travelers say they love the culture, but they spend most of their money in international chains, global hotels, global coffee shops, global tour companies. That is comfortable, but it doesn't support local communities much. If you want your presence to be positive, choose local businesses when possible. Eat in family restaurants. Buy from local markets. Use guides who live there. Pay fair prices. Leave honest reviews. These small choices matter. But supporting locals can also be done poorly. Some people give money to children on the street, thinking they are helping. In some places, that can encourage exploitation or keep kids out of school. A more responsible approach is to support reputable local organizations or community projects, or simply spend money in ways that create stable work for adults. If you want to donate, research first. Good intentions are not enough when systems are complex. We should also talk about the idea of authenticity, because tourists often chase it in a way that becomes disrespectful. People say, "I want the real culture," and then they judge locals for using modern technology, wearing modern clothes, or speaking English. But cultures are living. They change. A person is not less real because they use a smartphone. A city is not less authentic because it has a shopping mall. When you demand that locals perform traditional life for your entertainment, you turn people into musée exhibits. A respectful traveler doesn't freeze cultures in the past. They accept that modern life exists everywhere. They also understand that tradition is often a special context, festivals, family ceremonies, religious moments, not a costume people wear every day. Now, let's address a very human issue: what to do when you accidentally offend someone. This will happen. Even careful travelers make mistakes. The key is how you respond. If you respond with defensiveness, "In my country it's normal," "You're too sensitive," "I didn't mean it," you make it worse. Intent is not the only thing that matters. Impact matters too. A better response is simple. Apologize briefly. Thank them for telling you, and adjust your behavior. You don't need a dramatic apology. You just need to show you care. If the person reacts strongly, remember that you may have touched something bigger than the moment. Maybe they have seen many disrespectful tourists. Maybe your action reminded them of historical pain. Maybe they are tired. You don't know their full story. Respect means giving space and not making it about your ego. Finally, the deepest respect is not about perfect behavior. It's about relationship. When you interact with locals as equals, when you listen, learn, and allow your ideas to change, you create real cross-cultural respect. You stop treating culture as content and start treating it as human life. You become less interested in collecting experiences and more interested in understanding people. So, if we had to describe cultural respect in one sentence, it would be this: act like a guest in someone's home, even when the home is an entire country. Be curious. Be careful with your power. Pay attention. Learn the rhythm. And when you make mistakes, correct them without pride. Respect is not a performance. It is a habit. And when you build it, travel becomes richer not only for you, but for everyone you meet.